I'm gonna bag Rick Masters.
We got a chance to make him on a hand-to-hand buy.
You can't come up with the front money. You're not for real.
You're not the first agents to get next to Masters.
You're not wired, are you?
God, I'm gonna have a seizure from that trailer.
I know.
Like, it's so much flashing and like scene cutting back and back and back and back and forth and back and forth, like just like ridiculous.
Yeah.
No voiceover in that trailer.
No, not at all.
No. So today we're talking about To Live and Die in LA from 1985. I'm Kevin.
I'm Jake.
And this is Movie Matters. So classic, very, very classic 80s movie. Very underrated. I feel like not a lot of people have seen this movie. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, so I literally just finished watching it maybe an hour ago before we jumped on to record, and I enjoyed it a lot. I had never seen it before, and I was very impressed with a lot of the different aspects of the movie. The acting is fantastic. The cinematography is awesome. My big gripe is that the soundtrack doesn't always match what's happening in the movie, but that's kind of an 80s thing. They just like to have those like upbeat pop songs with like people getting murdered and stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
So, that is what it is. But I will say near the end of the movie, there's a stark shift in the music that really tells you that like shit's going down. And like that I kind of thought was cool. But yeah, awesome writing, and we'll talk about it, but lots of things being tied together in different parts of the movie that really like make it feel cohesive, and like lots of good character arcs and development. So yeah, let's just get into it.
Yeah, so I have seen this movie before, so it's cool that you haven't and I have. But it's also been a very long time since I've seen it. I saw it when I was like maybe 15 or 16 years old, so it's been about 15 or so years since I've seen it. My cousin, who was born in the early 70s, he was going through a divorce, and he would always come over and hang out with me, which was really cool. And he showed me all these awesome 80s movies, and this was one of them. And he's like, yeah, it's very 80s. He just, even back then, he was just like, yeah, this is a super cool 80s movie, very action packed and like very, very bloody. But,
Yeah.
At the time I didn't know, I wasn't into film as much as I am now. But William Friedkin directed it. He wrote it, and unfortunately he just passed away recently, so that's why we're doing this episode earlier than anticipated, just to kind of pay tribute to him. Just one of the most amazing, talented filmmakers out there, in my opinion. He's done The Exorcist, he's done French Connection, tons and tons of awesome movies. Sorcerer from the 70s. A lot of great 70s movies. All three of those being from the 70s. Just a true renegade of Hollywood history, and just a director that got whatever it took to make the movie and to get the shot and to get his actors to elicit their proper emotions. So just a rebel and an awesome, awesome dude.
Yeah. I think he's probably not as well known, I think, in our generation, because a lot of his movies that he's like really famous for were before our time. So I think this is definitely our way to get people interested in him as a director, and to kind of guide people towards those movies, because they're all excellent and widely applauded by fans and critics. So
yeah,
definitely worth looking into.
Yeah. So, but this movie, 80s movie through and through. Like you said, The music is very 80s. The soundtrack's by Wang Chung, which is hilarious. The opening credits with the 80s font, the music, the red kind of sun. I don't know if it's a sunrise or sunset. I think it's a sunrise, but it's like very just like, it just sets the mood right away that this is an 80s movie, and we're all in. So
yeah.
Great cast. Willem Dafoe looks weird as fuck as he does always. Like just weird facial structure, but excellent actor. William Petersen is Chance. He's the main cop. And then you got John Pankow, which is John Vukovic in the movie. But a fantastic cast. John Turturro has a role in this. Dean Stockwell, Robert Downey Sr. Just a great cast. So the plot basically it's a really good plot. I'll read the IMDb plot description. It's a fearless Secret Service agent will stop at nothing to bring down the counterfeiter who killed his partner. So the Secret Service agent is William Petersen. His character's name is Chance. And the counterfeiter is Eric Masters, played by Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, this is a really interesting plot, and I think fairly relevant to this time period. As I think this is shortly before the Treasury started using the very specialized paper for printing bills. That's like extremely difficult to counterfeit. So I think during the late 70s and through the 80s, counterfeiting was a very serious issue. And this is like kind of topical for the time that it came out. So it's pretty cool to see. And like, the Secret Service isn't something that usually gets a spotlight in film. So it's kind of cool to see that aspect of it. And in the beginning, you get to see the protection detail aspect of it as well, where Chance is on protective detail with the president during a speech at a hotel or something. And then the other aspect that a lot of people, I think, don't realize is that the Secret Service is actually dedicated to counterfeit investigation as well. So it's definitely a cool thing to see, because usually it's FBI in like every movie. So.
Yeah, I didn't even know that, so that's really cool. The whole counterfeit montage, like in the beginning with the 80s music, is super cool. So Friedkin wanted every detail to be very accurate as possible for this movie, so he was, he got two counterfeiters, like actual counterfeiters, and had them make the money and like had the whole process. People have literally watched this process and tried making money from it, and like it's ridiculous. Like they literally did all this counterfeiting like this. They made this money, and they would do like little things to make it so it was known that it was counterfeit bills. They thought they'd burned all the money from the props in the set, but apparently some of the money got into circulation and was actually like being used, which is crazy. I mean, that goes to show the level of accuracy and detail that Friedkin was putting into this film, which is really cool. Very, very good quality bills. Like even Friedkin was like, all right, well, I'm going to go test this out. Like literally took some money and went to like a store and bought stuff, which is awesome.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the realism in this movie, I think is really key to what makes it really like top tier. Like you mentioned earlier, it is a very bloody movie. But it's not excessive in its like violence and gore. It's like what is probably expected when like you shoot someone in the face with a shotgun.
Yeah.
The multiple times that people get shot in the movie.
Shot in the face or shot in the dick. Like
yeah. But it's not like typical 80s action movie where people are getting blown away left and right. I'd say they're very judicious with the violence in the movie, and they make it count when it happens, which is like I'd say kind of atypical for this point in the 80s, because most movies in like 1985 and after were just going for like body count.
Yeah, machoism, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, like, let's see how many guys we can just murder.
Yeah.
But the plot, I think it took some of the tropes around this time, like the 80s, and like the partner dies, gets paired with a new partner that he's reluctant to work with, a revenge mission, just kind of very classic 80s tropes, and buddy cop film. But this was more ahead of its time, in my opinion, with how gritty it was. Kind of talking like about the violence, like you're saying, the violence, the writing, the just everything about it, the counterfeit, just not the FBI, the Secret Service, all that stuff. Like definitely above its time, and makes it timeless, in my opinion. It makes it a true classic with how good it is and how well done it is.
Yeah, there's almost elements of like film noir in this, where there's a lot of like betrayal and double cross kind of like vibes going on. Nobody trusts anybody really in like the cast of players, I got a lot of like nihilism in the themes where like no matter what happens, like something bad is always going to be the result. So like it's definitely very like I would say almost diametrically opposed to a lot of the contemporaries of the time, where it was a lot of like good guy versus bad guy, bad guy loses, good guy wins. And like I mean, even like looking at Cobra, which we reviewed recently, Cobra is a very similar type of movie in terms of being like a crime action drama kind of film, but the Cobra's trajectory is always that good will win out, where this movie it's not that clear at all at any point in the email.
Agreed.
So yeah, it's very, very interesting, a very like refreshing thematic change for like what we've been watching so far.
Agreed. So what kind of strings the plot along is Willem Dafoe, Eric Masters, Rick Masters. He's creating these counterfeit bills, and Chance is basically they're going after him. His partner Jim, who's like 3 days out of retirement, is like, hey, I want to go alone and look and check on this lead. And he goes to a warehouse where Rick Masters is printing money and gets killed. And so Chance, William Petersen's character, goes on a mission, a hellbent mission for revenge to capture and pretty much kill Rick Masters or just nail him. Like that's kind of the driving force of this movie. And he goes over above and beyond the law to get what he wants. And so it's like you're saying, he's the hero of the story, but he's also an anti-hero because he's going to do it any which way possible, with any means, any force possible.
Right. And like what I think is a clear delineation from movies like Cobra, where Stallone's character in Cobra goes kind of outside the law in order to get the bad guy, but in the end you can kind of forgive him for some of the things that he does, because they're not like he's not hurting anyone that doesn't deserve it, or whatever. Yeah. Where in To Live and Die in LA, Chance does things that are like very, very sketchy a lot of the time. And it's hard to get on board with him a lot of the time. And I think it's cool because it creates a lot of tension between the viewer and his character, where you don't feel like you can't really root for him through like beyond like the second half of the movie. It's very clear that he's like lost that like North Star of like morality. Yep. And he's much more interested in revenge than anything else. Yeah. And like what's interesting to me about it is that he does seem to want to bring Rick to justice rather than just kill him, because there's a couple times where he actually has the chance to just shoot him and doesn't take it. He's instead wants to bring him in and the right way, because I think there's even a time where his partner John says like, if you want him so bad, why don't you just kill him? Yeah. and he just kind of brushes it off. But yeah, I mean, it's super interesting, very, very complex morally throughout the movie, which ties into like the nihilism and like where morality matters and where it doesn't within, this like this story,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, even with the whole plot of Ruth, the, like, kind of dancer girl that works at the, strip club, that Chance, William Petersen's character, is using as an informant, and using, like, with a capital U, like, he's, sleeping with her, and, like, she's trying to get out from under his grasp, and he's just like, screw you, like, I'll revoke your parole and you're gonna go like back to prison, basically. And she's like the epitome of the title, in my opinion. Like, it's To Live and Die in LA. Like, you're trapped there. Like, she can't get out from underneath it. And I think that's, like, in my opinion, that's where the title comes from, is her character.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, especially at the end, spoiler alert, that John ends up recruiting her to work for him.
And she's like about to leave
as she's trying to get out of the state. And yeah, that definitely ties everything together, that like there's nowhere for her to go,
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. It's good, good mirror in the whole plot. It's, yeah. Like, Turturro's character's great in this movie. John Turturro. Yeah. He plays like a guy who works for Masters, who's helping him with the counterfeit money, and he gets arrested, and they're trying to squeeze him out for information, and then Rick wants to kill him in prison, which is cool, and that's botched. Like, that whole scene where he's gonna get shanked by these two guys, like, that's super cool. Just a lot of awesome, cool scenes with great cinematography, like you were talking earlier. And then, they, with William Petersen, Chance's character, he wants to, he obviously doesn't, he loses Turturro when he's like escorting him to the hospital and like to another place. And then he's like, all right, what the hell am I going to do? So they basically go undercover, and they're going to try and buy counterfeit money to screw over and arrest Eric Masters' character. And they, go to their captain, and they want to get, what is it, like $30,000? And they're like, no, we can't get you $30,000 to buy this counterfeit money. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, this is how we get him. And so they decide to take a lead from Ruth, their informant, that they're going to rob this guy coming in with stolen diamonds, like 50 grand of stolen diamonds, which is, like, again, going back to him going outside the law and being like, all right, well, like, I'm going to take these matters into my own hands, and we're going to take him down.
Yeah.
That's
one of the coolest sequences and twists in the movie, which we shouldn't like spoil how that ends up just in case, but it turns out to be a really awesome, I mean, it's a great chase scene.
Yes.
Lots of car chase, some good like shooting and driving sequences, filmed extremely well, especially like when you compare it to other 80s movies of the time. It's just much more, I'd say, like, innovative than like some others are at this time. So yeah, really cool sequences.
Yeah, and it's like one of the first movies where the police are getting chased by who you think are the bad guys, which is really cool and a great contrast and just different from all the movies of this time. Shot super well, and like just as you think the chase is ending and they're about to get away, it just goes even, like they amp it up to 10 again, and it's just so good, so well done. Friedkin's known for his kind of chase scenes, especially French Connection. There's an amazing chase scene in New York in that car chase scene, and he wanted to top that in this, and I definitely think he did. And like super exhilarating, super intense, super fun, just very, very well done. Apparently that took like 6 weeks to shoot that. And like they wanted to make that the last thing they shot, because if like they get in an accident or like one of the characters like actually died, they're like, all right, we'll just save it for the last. Like that's how like, again, how crazy Friedkin is. He's just like, all right, like, you know, you guys are going to do this for real. Like, and if you die, like you die. Like just crazy.
Yeah. One thing before we move on about John Turturro. So there's a scene with John Turturro in the prison where right before he gets attacked, him and his buddy are talking. And you had brought up Sorcerer earlier, which is also a William Friedkin movie. And it's kind of a cult movie now. Not super well known, and a lot of people kind of attribute that to the fact that it came out the same day as Star Wars in 1974, I think, right? 1977.
Yeah.
And Star Wars obviously blew it out of the water in the box office. So there's this scene where Turturro and his buddy are sitting in the prison yard, and he asks his buddy, what movie are we watching tonight? And he said, oh, it's like Space Fight or something like that. And Turturro goes, God, I hate that space shit. So it's kind of a funny little jab at Star Wars.
Yeah.
That kind of ruined one of his earlier movies.
Which again is a cult classic. It's it's one of the best movies like ever made, and I don't say that lightly. Like just the way it's shot and way it's done. Sorcerer, 1977, Roy Scheider. Amazing movie. Jakey, have you seen it?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay. Yeah, you definitely got to watch it.
I'll watch it.
I hadn't seen it, and I knew it was like, I'd heard about it for a long time. I studied it in college, and, or I knew about it in college from one of my film classes. And I finally watched it about maybe within the last year, and I was blown away. So again, Friedkin is just a master filmmaker. And R.I.P. to him. This movie made a decent amount. Speaking of box office returns, made a decent amount. It was only made for $6 million, which is not horrible. It was pretty low budget, especially with, you know, the main actors in it were pretty much unknowns for the most part. But it made $17 million, so it turned a profit. Wasn't huge, but it's definitely gained notoriety since its release and became also a classic.
Yeah. One of the other things I actually had a question about, because I didn't know if you had any information on it. So throughout the movie, there's dates and times that are put up at the start of scenes to kind of track like the linear progression of the movie. And throughout the movie, they change. In the beginning, it's almost like handwritten across the bottom of the screen, and then it changes to like a digital kind of layout, and then like back to handwritten, and like back to digital a few times. Like it's interesting. And I didn't really see it tied to anything in particular. But I just thought it was an interesting choice.
Yeah, I don't know. I know, like, I know. Yeah, I don't know if it was. I mean, obviously, it was done for a specific reason, I'm sure. Just again to kind of keep the linear progression of the story, but I don't know anything too much more into that. And if the viewers know, like, comment and let us know, because that'd be pretty cool if there's a particular, reason that he did that.
Yeah, just super, fairly apparent decision that, like, clearly there's some reason behind it. So, yeah, we'll dig into that and see if we can find something. But yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, very, very good movie. Do we want to spoil the ending a little bit? I think, I know you said you don't want to really spoil the whole, why the chase scene ensues, but the ending, well, I personally want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
We'll just put the spoiler alert here. Don't listen any further if you don't want to know the ending. You want to watch the movie.
or watch it
give
and
you
then
a
come
second.
right back to this.
Yeah, come back and listen to our commentary on it. So stop now.
Yeah, I mean, so crazy ending
Yeah.
where Chance, William Petersen, gets shot in the face and dies. They're about to bust Rick Masters. They kind of got a sting operation. They got the money from that's why they're in this chase scene. They got the money because, and they're trying to set him up, and they finally, have him recorded, and they're, about to arrest him. And then, John Vukovich takes his eyes off of Jack, Rick Masters' bodyguard, and he takes a shotgun out of a locker and shoots Chance right in the face, and Chance ends up, getting a round off and killing Jack as well. They kill each other, which is so shocking, shocking of a scene. And then Rick, runs away, and John Vukovich, John Pankow's character is just standing holy shit, no, don't leave me, you're kind of showing me the way. I'm, what the fuck?
Yeah, and what I found really interesting about this is leading up to this scene, there's a few interactions between John and Master's lawyer, and John's actually trying to get advice on how does he get out of this criminal activity that they've engaged in order to nail Masters. And the lawyer basically tells him you're fucked. You're gonna have to do jail time, and you're gonna have to rat your partner out.
Yeah.
And he's really conflicted about this through the entire end sequence of the movie. And what I think is kind of interesting is so the other thing that we didn't mention yet is that the money that they stole from the supposed diamond trader or whatever, it was actually an FBI sting that they intercepted, and all the people chasing them were FBI agents.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Which was a crazy twist in and of itself.
Yeah, when they're sitting in the briefing, and they're like, yeah, so there's an FBI sting went wrong, Agent Lee or whatever his name is got killed in the process, and holy fuck, awesome twist, and you're just holy shit. And then they kind of have that freak out moment in the stairwell where there's John Pankow's character is he's kind of the moral center of the movie, and he's kind of he's almost the main character. You're supposed to almost align with his values, but then towards the end he's kind of tipping towards Chance, William Petersen's character, which is cool.
Yeah, so I think that the reason why the scene where they're going to bust Masters and Chance ends up dying is so pivotal to the thematic, elements of the movie that we've already talked about, nihilism and morality, is because even if they nailed Masters, they still have to deal with the fact that they stole FBI money in order to nail him. So it's a lose-lose situation. And I think Chance dying is a shitty outcome.
It's almost karma.
No matter what, it was going to be a shitty outcome.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the main theme of the movie, is that there's always negative consequences to actions. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's cool is it's kind of briefly at the end, it's briefly mentioned by John Pankow to Ruth, the dancer character that's the informant for Chance's character. He goes over to her place and basically he almost assumes Chance's identity. He's wearing the same clothes, he's same sunglasses roughly. He's become this morally diverse character in this cop that's gonna probably go and do anything he can to make the ends justify the means. And he tells Ruth, you set us up, basically. You knew that guy was FBI, and you set him up. You set us up, which is really cool because it's again, to live and die in LA. She wants to get out from under, his grasp. And she's like, all right, well, I'm going to set him up with this fucking diamond thing. I'm just going to slip this in there, and, he'll get busted. And it's yeah, he gets killed because of it in a sense, but then, she's still in the same position that she is
Right.
in the beginning. It's literally it's a horrible cycle,
Yeah, and like to touch on, like I mentioned that the writing is excellent in this movie, and that's one of the things that gets tied up kind of at the end. Is there's several instances through the movie where she has information that's kind of suspect, and Chance questions her about it, like, how the fuck do you know what the guy's train schedule is, and like stuff like that like she shouldn't know, like, so it's, and I think even at one point she says that she's like thinking about informing for someone else. And that's kind of a tie-in, I think, to the fact that she is getting information from the FBI, and she's playing two different games at the same time.
Yeah, crazy.
So I think it's pretty safe to say that she did set them up to get screwed over in that FBI sting.
I think so too.
And one of the other elements of writing that's absolutely fantastic in this movie is the base jumping, where Chance's character base jumps as like a recreational activity,
and you think he's gonna kill himself, like, because you don't even see,
he's
like,
gonna kill himself.
Yeah.
But like it kind of, like, they show it kind of isolated as this like thing that he just does, and like then he kind of presses it on John early on in their partnership. He's like, oh, you should do it, like, it's exhilarating, like, it's awesome. And like and then when they're in the middle of the car chase, it like flashes back to him base jumping and stuff.
I love that.
And like it kind of ties together that like he's kind of an adrenaline junkie.
100%.
And like after the car chase scene, well, there's actually like a couple times where they think they got out of the car chase scene, and he's like, yeah, we fucking did it. And like, he's like pumped, where like John is like crying in the back seat, he's not like, you can tell that he's kind of unhinged almost.
Yeah.
Like,
he didn't crack under pressure. Like, adrenaline junkie for sure. I love that. Great aspect to his character.
Yeah. Really cool, element of his character development and arc that like and which is kind of why he ends up getting in the situation that he does in the end and getting killed, because like he's pushing himself for that like exhilaration and revenge at the same time, and somewhere between those two something's gonna give, and he ends up paying for it.
I absolutely love this movie. Very quintessential 80s movie. 100% recommend. Like, it's a fucking classic. And only seeing it my second time, like, I picked up on a lot more. Obviously, hadn't seen it in a long time, but I picked up on a lot more things that I hadn't upon my first viewing that I recalled. I definitely recommend it, and it should be 100% on your list. Go watch it. And hopefully this review / podcast will make you want to watch it, or watch it before and then listen to us and dissect it with us. And, that's the fun of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the only other note I had on this is that I get like crazy Departed vibes from this movie. I see the influence of this movie on The Departed a lot. Especially in the just bloodbath at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like the lack of distinction between black and white, and the gray morality of the movie. So absolutely fantastic movie. I highly recommend it.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys for listening. And next week we'll be doing Risky Business. It's another classic 80s movie. Just let us know your thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye.